I do not need a transcription. No transcription. Call is being recorded. Transcript will be saved. Good. Everything is looking okay. So before we start the call, Tim, I really want to ask you about first of all, about your work.
Yes.
Your book. What are the lessons in your book that we need to
Yes.
adapt in order to be ready for the future? And strategies, really. I need to download what is in the book for viewers to understand and to implement. Here's how you
Yes.
get about doing it. So that's what the interview is. Will be 12 to 15 minutes tops, and we'll be done by 11:15-ish. Is that okay?
Perfect. All good.
Yeah, I want to make it short and sweet. So I'm going to do a countdown, and then when I say goodbyes to you, I will actually say a final goodbye after that, okay? For the sake of the recording, I'll say goodbye. Okay, so 3. It is recording. Okay, good. 3, 2. Hi, everybody. I have Tim Bottke with me, best-selling author, and we're going to learn from him what his book is all about and how to implement the strategies in our life, business, and work. Tim, welcome to the Undisrupted Summit. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much for the intro. So I'm Tim Bottke. I'm an associate professor for strategy and digital transformation at SDA Bocconi School of Management in Italy. This is my side job. My main job is I am the Chief Innovation Officer for half of Europe at Deloitte. And I've spent the past 25 years helping companies and clients transforming from A to B in many different ways. And recently, digital transformation was obviously the key theme of our time.
So a lot is happening, right? You open up the news, you open up Google, innovation is everywhere, right? Change is happening everywhere, and there's massive and rapid amounts of change, whether you look at computing, chip industry, trade and commerce. There's so much happening. How do we make sense of it? And tell us about your book. How did you end up writing the book? What are the key lessons in the book?
As you rightfully said, so there are so many things happening out there all the time. And the reason for the book was obviously not the nicest one. I was in a client conversation with a very trusted CEO, longtime friend. And you know how consultants are. He asked me a question I couldn't answer, and I hated it. And the question was as simple as brutal. It was, Tim, we both know that it would take $500 million, lots of tears and blood to transform this company via digital transformation over the next years, to replace legacy ways of working, introduce new technologies, new products, whatever you name it. That's option A. Option B is I wear sneakers and jeans from next week on. I tell my investor relation people, put digital, AI, whatever the buzzword is, on every second paragraph in our investor relations report. And only if you tell me that I will end up better in market cap and value in my short tenure remaining in this company, only then I will make this bloody and very painful journey happening in terms of transformation. But I need your proof, quantitative proof. And I didn't have any.
No pressure, right?
So, and I didn't have any. So I left the room. I said, I'll come back. And then a multi-year journey started because there was no real quantitative research out there on whether digital transformation will ever pay back. And that's why the book is called Digital Transformation Payday. So the big question is, will you ever see your money back, all the billions you have invested as an economy, as companies, and so on? And I went back to academia to try to find the answers there. It was also a hard journey. So I spent a couple of years in coding, including Corona times, to find the answer. And the book is the result. It's the first ever empirical review of whether digital transformation creates value or not.
So that's so insightful because I see organizations of all kinds jumping to the next hype, whether it's artificial intelligence right now, analytics, what have you, cloud computing. And we always have these hype cycles, whether Forrester or Gartner is covering it and they have all their hype cycles. Great. The problem is it really paying off? And I just read a report a couple of weeks ago. I think it was from Stanford, the computing group division they have, and it was like is it really paying? Is generative AI really giving the ROI, right? It was a generative AI report. And what are organizations doing and how much ROI do they have? So I think it's great to have, to pursue something aspirationally, new tech, innovate, take it all and say, hey, this is the next biggest thing. But where's the ROI? Will it really, help us in the long term? What are some of the trends or changes you're seeing today as of, end of 2024, going into 2025? What do you see as the key, these things where ROI, we don't know where it's going?
I think there's good and bad news. So I think the journey I've started with the book and all the hundreds of discussions I've had to look more into the economical and strategic implications of all these technologies rather than the technology alone. I think when I started this journey, I was often questioned whether I'm not creative enough, not forward-looking enough. But now it has turned out over the years that very often the payback didn't happen. So asking for a recent trend, and I know it's driven by what happens geopolitically, economically across the world, management teams and boards, they ask much more detailed questions to see what really will be delivered whatever the hype is that is currently talked about. And Gen AI is one thing. I'm a geek, so I love all these technologies, but I'm also a strategist, and a technology is not a strategy. It's a tool to help to build a winning strategy. But if you believe that any technology will help you or save your company, you're probably on the wrong track. So recently, I think there's much more emphasis into looking deeper in what's happening, because in the end, it's all about scaling. Look, Gen AI is one nice example. It's lovely what you can do, but if you do not scale it, and if you do not find use cases which scale quick and large enough, it's just a nice and little MVP, a pilot which might have some positive ROI, but it's not changing your company's strategy or the way you operate and how you win against competition.
Tim, when you were doing your research for the book and you were writing it, you were meeting people, doing all that hard work. What were some kind of things that you saw? Did you find a connection between hey, large companies are innovating better or small companies are doing a great job? Were some interesting things that you found on maybe specifically the size of companies that's out there and the results that they're getting, or how leaders are thinking differently when it comes to the smaller organizations and the larger ones? Anything you can share?
You asked the perfect question, because I think the first part of my answer would be, good news is that digital transformation has a payday on average. So the empirics in the book, looking at 10 years of data and thousands of companies, more or less say that on average, companies which are better in their digital transformation journey can generate higher market cap and value. The problem is it's on average. And that's where your question was leading. So the average is like, this joke, if you have your head in the fridge and your feet in the oven, you feel fine, but actually you're dead on average. And it's the same here. So yes, there are huge differences in what companies can achieve with digital transformation, and size is one example. But more important is financial strength. How asset heavy are you? How much dividends do you pay? And all these kind of things are analyzed in the book, because it turns out that investors value this innovation, digital transformation piece much more in companies who have nothing else to rely on, But the problem is that in this set of companies, low net income, negative income, small, whatever, the risk of losing is also much bigger. So the positive average is driven by the few winners and many, many losers. So you can never generalize in these kind of things. So you need to look into what your company is, but you shouldn't be too frustrated. That's what the data says. If you are big, asset heavy, dividend heavy, it feels much harder to generate value with digital. But at the same time, also your shareholders have lower expectations because they trust and value much more what you have in your legacy, as long as no one else is destroying it.
So in your book, what are some of the recommendations that you have provided? What can viewers of this interview take and do? What can they just take and say, hey, you know what? Great. I'm going to just take these steps and go for, whatever results they want.
Look, there's one quote in the book which is saying that for every such question, there is for every such complex question, there is a simple, easy, and very wrong answer. And the same is true for digital transformation. So if the main message of my book is, if I had these three things, then it wouldn't be worth the transformation journey. But there are many things you can do. You need to understand. Number one, digital transformation is not a strategy. Whenever you think that technologies will save you, and when you're not in there to win against competition and to differentiate, then all these technologies are useless. And very often these days, never a single technology will provide this differentiation. It will have to be a mix of different things.
Yeah.
Second, as I said, it's not only about technology. As a CEO in one of the interviews said, look, we've solved everything usually, and the whole transformation is breaking at the one point we didn't consider. And it has been different over time. Initially, it was technologies. That's now mostly safer with all the platform companies and hyperscalers. Now it's mostly people and customers. So your people cannot follow, your reskilling doesn't follow, so all your technology transformation doesn't make any sense. And the third key learning is measure, measure, measure. You wouldn't believe how many people I've met who told me it's not measurable. It's digital, it's innovation. You cannot measure it.
Yeah.
Yes, you can, and that's what the book is all about. But there are no easy recipes, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
easy
no, of course
takeaways.
not. I totally resonate with that. I mean, when you talk about measuring, oh my God, you can measure everything, each and everything, including signals that are in your microprocessor, in your quantum computer, what have you. So I think when leaders talk about it's immeasurable, they just do not know the metrics that they should be using or the KPIs they should be using. I think that knowledge kind of needs to be refreshed somehow. So I've heard that so many times. But the other way of looking at it is, start with what can you measure, and then figure out how can you do it and how can you measure it, rather than, hey, I now have this shining technology, I'm going to use it, spend a few $1 million, and then we'll figure out, what to do with it. And I see so many projects that are just a waste of money. Hundreds of millions of dollars go into waste.
Billions. Yeah, we calculated the total waste. It's unimaginable. And that's why I said, look, while we all might love the high growth times, I think it's also a very helpful time at the moment where some of these hypes and almost religious beliefs in things which couldn't demonstrate really impact, they're now at least reconsidered.
Yeah.
And funny enough, yesterday I was with the leadership team of a leading global company, the global digital leadership team. And the funny thing is there was agreement that you couldn't even measure that you've delivered what you said. And that's often not done.
Yeah.
So it's inflated, hyped, and then the question, so did you deliver what you promised?
Yeah.
That's then buried somewhere in the cellar where it cannot be found.
Oh God. Let's recap. Number one, not everything is about technology, right? Not everything is about technology. Number two, you mentioned number three, you mentioned measurement. Number two, what was number two?
Number two was technology. Number one is it's all about strategy.
It's all about strategy.
Yes.
Technology is not a strategy.
Yes.
Number two, you cannot do everything with tech. Number three, measure, like the summit session. Tim, so inspiring. Thank you. Really, really appreciate this short, quick, snappy session.
Yes.
Where can our people find you, buy a copy of your book, figure out what you do? Tell us.
The book can be found in every bookstore, online, offline, you can imagine. And if you want to find out more, there's a webpage. It's big surprise, digitaltransformationpayday.com, and there you find more. And I'm open for any questions anytime.
There you go, digitaltransformationpayday.com. Check out Tim's work, folks, and learn at least, even if you do one thing that Tim talks about and has really talked about in the book, I think it would be a game changer. Tim, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being part of this snappy, undisrupted summit. And
I love the format. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Until the next interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.